Boom, boom. Okay. Okay. This is Bridges for Music. Welcome to the Bridges for Music podcast. Today we're speaking to Freddie from Secret Garden Party. The Secret Garden Party is a festival held at a farmhouse near Huntington, England. From its humble beginnings, the festival has grown to 35,000 attendees and 15 stages. Get ready to explore this magical festival's history, performances, and its commitment to mental health charities. We welcome Freddie. I'm very honored, first of all, to be sitting here with you and to have this conversation. Just to give you a little bit of an understanding, I mean, I'm an alumni from Bridges for Music in Langa, and I didn't have much of a background when it comes to like house music and, festivals. So to know that I'm sitting with someone who's kind of been the brains behind one of the biggest festivals is amazing. Welcome to the podcast, the Pioneer and Bridge for Music podcast. And I hope to just pick your brain a bit more and hear more about the authenticness of Secret Garden Party. So, I mean, it's become one of the biggest festivals in the UK and overall for me. But how did it all begin? Like, can you just give us a brief introduction to how you came up with this idea and why choose the festival industry that already had so many other competitors in it?
This was, we're talking 20 years ago. So actually, back then there wasn't much competition. And where the inspiration came from was, I think really it was from the rave scene, and having grown up with that and been at university where that was, that was the scene, and realizing that there were loads of people who loved the vibe, the connection, but maybe weren't into just that one type of music they played. So really what the idea was to come up with same kind of gathering, but be much more inclusive about it and have a wider church of music styles and what have you. And then that also, coincided very neatly with the fact my family are farmers, and my father was sort of indulgent or sweet enough to sort of point out a couple of fields and say, these aren't very good at the farm. They're not worth much to us. You could probably do something with this. And I said, yeah, you're looking at these fields totally wrong. They are, they're stunning. They're around a beautiful lake. This is probably one of the most beautiful sites we could find in England. So it started that way. We had, I think, first year 700 people. And it sort of, gradually grew by a couple of hundred people the next year. And then third year, I think we hit 5,000. And then we hit an exponential curve of people getting more and more engaged. And I think that was because we really did offer something that wasn't there before. And sure, there was Glastonbury, Leeds and Reading, but these were, to the fore, mostly what I would call a concert in a field, rather than what we know of as a festival now, where people are much more involved, they're much more immersed in a whole party rather than being members of an audience. And so, we were one of the first places to offer people the chance to come and really get involved and realize some of their crazy dreams and art ideas and what have you.
Wow, that is amazing. I mean, to know that you've kind of pioneered, if that's the great way to express this, but pioneered the culture of people being more than just participators or audience in a concert, right? So they're getting more of an experience by joining and being part of the Secret Garden Party. That's amazing. How did you guys then maintain? Sorry, I was just asking, how do you guys then maintain your following, like people that actually attend the festival? So what would you do different every time?
We try and make the event a different, it's a different theme. It's a different artistic sort of idea behind it each time. And I think really it's about continued engagement and empowerment of your audience. And a lot of that
Yeah.
comes from the idea that really what we remember about the best parties that we've ever been to, it's not really always
Yeah.
the fireworks display or the headline artist. It's the people you've meet there. It's, to sound cheesy,
Yeah.
the new friends you make you didn't know were out there. And
Exactly.
so by getting people involved, giving people ownership and empowerment of areas and art pieces and strange, silly activities, this breaks down the barriers and more strangers get to meet each other and more friendships are made. And that's ultimately, I believe, one of the main objectives of a gathering of like-minded souls for a weekend of celebration.
Yeah. So with all that hard work being done and that careful kind of focus in making sure you guys are creating this beautiful space for people to gather and make those new connections, what can you say was your biggest mistake that you've made as a promoter, and how did you learn from this?
Um, I can think of a couple because in 20 years we've ticked a lot of those boxes. I think our
Yeah.
biggest and first mistake was a combined one when we went to the council to ask to get a license in our first years. They gave us a license that went till 6 a.m. for our main stage. And being 20 somethings, we very much used that license. And by year 3, we literally had a mob of local villagers at our gate. I mean, they were that short of carrying pitchforks and flaming torches, literally screaming at us, what the hell did we think we were doing? And it had never occurred to us that was going to, that would happen because we had a license for it. So that was a big mistake, and it set us back for quite a while on our license. We had to work very hard to come up with a very sophisticated sound monitoring system to keep everyone happy. I think, more recently there's, some of the mistakes you can make more than once. And certainly last year, we relied on a single supplier for the provision of our loos in a year that we hadn't predicted post-COVID how fragile the supply industry was for events. And there's not a lot you can do when half your loos turn up, full, dirty, and some of them broken. And that was that's it. But making mistakes 20 years in, I think, is more painful than making a mistake 3 years in. So we're still learning.
Yeah, but I mean, exactly. I was just going to say, I mean, I guess that means, it's a constant space of learning when you're working with people and events, it's never as perfect as you want it to be. And that just shows that there's so much room for improvement and that it's going to get better and better because we always learn from our mistakes. And with that being said, what are then your proudest moments from the Secret Garden party?
Lovely question. I think, just sort of reaching for two, they range from the very personal and intimate ones. And I'm trying to remember roughly what year, but it would have been about our 7th or 8th year, receiving an email from a woman who basically her story went that I think about 10 months before the party, she'd been in an accident and sustained life-changing injuries that had put her in a wheelchair. And her email went along the lines of, I thought, she was mid-20s, I thought that was basically it for me, and, going out and having fun. And, really my life had changed beyond all recognition. And she said, and then I came to your festival and it taught me that there's still so much fun to be had and nothing, and I didn't feel left out, and it's changed my life.
Wow.
Now, I mean that, I actually am still getting tingles and, slightly welling
I'm
up.
getting tingles now too.
So, there's moments like that where you just feel so lucky to have been part of something, that has had such a positive impact. But then there's also, on a wider scale, we were the first festival, certainly in Europe, if not, I think, the world, to be able to license and implement public access drugs testing, which means that the general public, without fear of prosecution, could check whether the substances that they had bought illegally were what they were supposed to be, whether they were safe, and they received counselling and sort of information on what would have happened had they and their friends taken such a substance. And this was such a leap in changing the perception of treating people in possession of controlled substances as criminals, rather than at that stage treating them as a duty of care and vulnerable people who actually do need, all that support. And this program's now been rolled out to several other festivals. They've got permanent license to do this in a couple of city centres around England. And we personally saw a 70% reduction in hospital admissions and admissions to medical for drug-related misadventure, just from the moment we put that safety measure in. And they've had, you can imagine some of the differences to accident and emergency rooms in city centres with this open source resource there. So, if I had to pick two things that really, I'm very proud of and proud to have been a part of, that would be it.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I was actually going to mention how amazing it is that you guys have taken the responsibility to ensure people practice safety in precaution at festivals, So it makes sense that would be a proud moment as well, because I think it's truly amazing to have people on a team working on a festival, and also just considering people's safety, and genuine happiness as well, because we can be misled, especially people that are attending festivals and that are still very young and want to have fun, don't always think about the repercussions. So it's amazing to know that, a festival like this has people behind it that actually care about the people and not just them attending, their festival. So bigs up to you guys. That's
very important, the duty of care, and a lot of what the Garden Party was founded on in some of its activities and the things we do has always been based on the fact that prohibition doesn't work, whether that's for people skateboarding over the site and trying to jump in the lake off a ramp, or whether it's people taking illicit substances. And it is, from a duty of care point of view, we believe that you acknowledge that these things are going to happen, and you need to make sure that people are looked after and safe, rather than you try and prevent something that is essentially, impossible to prevent. And as we say to the police force, if you can't stop drugs getting into a high security prison, how do you expect us to do the same?
If you want to listen to these conversations live and have access to this incredible community, you can join us at our physical campus, the Bridges Academy in Langa, South Africa. A revolutionary learning space where you will find courses on music, entrepreneurship, film, DJing, and much more. For more information on how to apply, visit bridgesacademy.org. With regards, obviously, we've all been young before, we've all had fun, but what advice would you have given your 20-year-old self?
I think that one's really simple. Get a very good accountant or bookkeeper.
Okay. So how old are you when you started the Secret Garden Party?
I think I must have been 23 or 24. So very young, very wet behind the ears. And I think a lot of our triumphs was down to our inexperience. We were sort of reinventing or inventing how we produced an event as we went along. And we, were ignoring all the advice from production companies that were saying, that we should be engaging them to produce the whole event. And we very much went about it as a hands-on project. And with that, some wonderful things evolved, but also you were doomed to make some mistakes that, looking back, you were repeating other people's mistakes that they'd learned from. But I think I wouldn't have changed all of that, but we would have done a lot better with a good in-house accountant or bookkeeper.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you've mentioned before to Valentino, I believe, offline, that you'd want to turn the festival into a social enterprise after
Yes.
some time. So, what is the goal for this turnaround, and what is your vision for Secret Garden Party's future?
Well, this is very exciting because I think this is the first sort of public announcement or confirmation of this plan. But I think, sort of as I was saying before, it's been remarkable through the Garden Party's history how much has been inspired, incubated, or instigated by the event, either very directly or just by gathering people together. And it's been a wonderful privilege to do that. And I think art is the privilege of the privileged, because if it's not something we get to practice if we're worrying about where we're getting our daily bread from. And it has had such a wonderful force for good that now we're I say this in inverted commas, grown up. We thought that this was worth actually looking at closer and really cementing this belief of ours that the event is a force for good. And a social enterprise in England is a change of, it's a commercial vehicle definition. It means our business is still run as a for-profit business, but instead of the profit being generated for shareholders, it's generated for a social enterprise. And so we wanted, this enterprise to be aimed at helping rehabilitate, integrate people who are disenfranchised, who are at risk, who have been left in the margins of society. So whether these are people coming to our shores as refugees or kids coming out of foster care systems with no support around them, people coming out of prison with, similar lack of support around them, or just simply people who are, from very deprived areas and, in very much, that's why Bridges for Music and your whole mission is so close to my heart and was so inspirational, is there's very similar, aims and beliefs there that by actually actively engaging in this and making sure that dedicating our profits going towards frontline charities that are actively engaged with this and helping design programs with them to give people openings, opportunities and widening horizons so that they have more tools to go out into the world and do what they want to do. And also, doing some in-house projects as well. We're one of the very lucky things we have in this is based on a family farm. And we have more facilities to sort of help this enterprise and this mission all year round than we are using. There are farm buildings that can be easily converted to accommodation and workshops and studios for people as this goes on. So it's very exciting. It's something that, again, like I suppose the drugs testing, we're able to consider because we are 100% independent. I don't have a board of shareholders screaming at me that their meal tickets are about to be taken away from them by doing this. And I think it's also part of our belief that this is what we do that's different. We have always been at our root a force for good and a force for change rather than a vehicle to make lots of money out of throwing parties.
Yeah, wow, this is so powerful, and I am 100% sure that you are going to, reach this social enterprise. I feel like it's a goal that has long been maybe built within you as well. It feels like there's a lot of intention put behind this. And I mean, sitting here on the opposite side, I'm actually an alumni, and you're speaking, you're like preaching to the choir basically, because because I can sit here and I can say, through bring through the program Bridges for Music, and something like what you are wanting to dive into with the social enterprise, from the Secret Garden party. I'm getting that opportunity to sit here and bridge that gap that I could have never maybe had met you before,
Yes.
nor even attended a Secret Garden party in my entire life if I'd never come through to a space like Bridges for Music. So I think if you are heading that direction, with the Secret Garden party and looking to also work with Bridges, that would be amazing. I heard you mention studios and things like that, and I got a bit exciting. What would ideally the partnership be between Bridges for Music and Secret Garden Party if it happened?
Well, I mean,
What would
I'm
it
very
look like?
confident it is going to happen. But I mean, what we really want is actually put that bridge in and really be able to offer a full cultural and expertise sort of exchange between England and South Africa. Um, and
Yeah.
look at, in my dream, not only people from Cape Town and Johannesburg and other areas being able to have a chance to come and continue their journey of education and enrichment in England in a different environment, meeting a completely different set of peoples and looking at disciplines, at the same time offering similarly disadvantaged and marginalized people in England the chance to see how it works in a different country. I think the more
Yeah.
communication, the more of this connection that happens through this, the richer it will be. And I think we are. I mean, certainly in England, it's something I know our audience and our generation have real hunger for. But opening up ourselves to a much wider sort of concept of what it means to be a force for good.
Yeah, and I love how you use the word. I don't know if you used exactly this word, but I love how you mention like it's like a cultural exchange,
Mm.
where I'm like someone from this side is able to learn more about exactly what happens in England and the people and the music and everything about the culture, and also vice versa for someone who's from maybe a rural area in England, who can come into South Africa and see what the struggles are for South Africans here. So I think that's a great, I'd like to call it like a cross pollination
Yeah.
sort of thing,
And I think
where we can
that's
like
key, isn't
learn.
it? The actual exchange, it not never being a one-way flow
Yeah,
of energy.
exactly. So with like mentioning South Africa and England and that cross pollination happening, are you a regular to South Africa, right? So I mean, you visited a few times, hey? Or do you
Yeah,
come
yeah.
like every
I
summer?
first I first came out. My One of my greatest oldest friends moved out for I think about 5 or 6 years to Cork Bay in the about 2002, and so I would come out for months on end to visit him, normally in the English winter, and
Okay.
started meeting people there and seeing the party scene there, and making some very very good friends. And that sort of connection has continued. And actually, now my wife had lived in South Africa for 11 years before we got together. So a huge part of
Oh,
her
okay.
life is based there. And so more and more I find myself, with almost one foot in the southern hemisphere with you guys and the other foot up here in Cambridgeshire.
Okay. So what's your take on the local scene then? And do you have any future plans in South Africa for Secret Garden Party?
Oh, I mean, I know one thing is never say never, because you never know.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yes.
I I love the cultural scene out there. To be honest, the moment I get off the plane, I have a smile on my face, because there is a warmth and a connection and an openness that I think we rather lack in England. We're a bit too we're quite reserved over here, and I think one of going back to the
Mm.
garden party and about how the making connections and friendships being so important. I think it was very important for us to have these props and these toys for people to break down those barriers, because that's the
Yeah.
English
Yeah.
way. And the first thing I've or notice every time I come back is that there's a very different style in South Africa. If you smile at people, strangers, and say hello to them on the street or on public transport in England, people look at you very oddly. Um,
That is crazy. So with regards to the actual like festival scene, is there anything you can point out that's a bit different or that you took inspiration from in South Africa?
well, definitely, without a doubt, when we were thinking about and conceiving the garden party, as I said, the Raven party scene was a real inspiration and a jumping off point of trying to bring that culture into a more inclusive musical and background, and also therefore with its audience. And so parties like Origin and Vortex, which
Yeah.
were going on there, were a great part of our journey. But then also, I think it's been very interested. The Flam Jangled Tea Party was, in some
Yeah.
respects, an offshoot of the Garden Party. One of the people who helped found and build the Garden Party at the beginning, Fear, was one of the founders of that. And then, of course, there's Bazik, which is
Mm.
actually one of the reasons why I've, heard about you guys. Is
Okay.
Nick Ladd is an old and great friend, and when Bazik started, the Garden Party sort of
Yeah.
lent its hand or lent its name to help him get that off the ground. And that was where this idea of cementing some cultural exchange came around. And, wonderfully, a few years on, here we are looking down a road where it's all about to start and actually happen. So yeah,
Exactly.
it's been wonderful.
Yeah, no, Nick is a really great supporter of the school and has always been involved. We've also had a few stages at Bazik. So, yeah, it's a great festival and initiative that he's driving as well there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've kind of very gotten. It feels like I've been to the Secret Garden party already, because I've just connected with you so much, and I really admire your openness, and I can tell and understand why the woman emailed you back, because I'm sure, I can feel the vibe. I can understand that this is what you birthed this kind of feeling at the Secret Garden party. So yeah, this is amazing work that you guys are doing, and I really hope one day I could possibly come over, play, or just enjoy the party. But I know you've been to the academy before at Bridges for
Yeah,
Music, right?
absolutely.
Can
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
just to close things off and to kind of leave it on a great note, I just wanted you to give me a little bit of like your experience at the school, and if you grew up in Langa, would you attend Bridges for Music?
I mean, that one without a doubt. I didn't know what I was expecting when I came down to Langer to look at the school, and I was really blown away, first of all, by the amazing facilities, but actually, I think more by how holistic the education is there, and it not being just about, a very narrow approach to music production, but being so much more and so much wider in how you're, engaging with the pupils and the range of
Yeah.
subjects and skills that you were bringing to the table. That's what really blew me away. And I was that was really inspirational when conceiving of the social enterprise here. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it was really eye opening. And, further your point of, your hopes to come and see the garden party, we are 100%. We're going to have Bridges for Music stage next year. We came very close to being able to pull it off this year. But so it's not going to be a huge amount of work to get this up next year. And so we'll be looking forward to rolling out the red carpet to all you guys, next summer.
Wow, that is amazing. If I had confetti, I'd be throwing it up in the sky. But that's amazing. That's amazing news. I think anyone who's going to get that opportunity is going to open doors and start this partnership in a really good and high note. And I hope that it's going to go on forever and ever and ever. And yeah, we just give birth to new ideas and new ways to encourage the youth and to ensure that they are safe while remaining true to themselves and enjoying what they do mostly. That's a lot of inspiration that I've gotten from you in terms of just remaining yourself and enjoying, but also still, doing so with caution and just generally learning from each other and connecting and the importance of connecting. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity, Freddie, to sit down with you and have a talk on Secret Garden Party. And I hope that everyone listening is going to have a takeaway. We have this thing called a takeaway, where if you've learned something for the day and you journal it down, at least you'll have a better memory of it instead of just letting it go. So I'm sure everyone that'll listen to this podcast will have a lot of takeaways from you.
Well, Yams, thank you very much. And I've definitely got some takeaways from this. It's been an honor and very inspirational to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this podcast as much as we do making them. Remember, if you'd like to attend any of these workshops live, enroll in any of our upcoming programs. To support the work we do, you can find more information on bridgesformusic.org. Please don't forget to subscribe, as we'll be bringing new inspiring conversations soon. Until next time, keep safe.